So our talk today is release, and we have our releasing ceremony later in the service. And I love the releasing ceremony. I love all sacred ceremony. I think it is meaningful. And our topic being release, what we're truly looking at the deepest level here today is releasing everything that does not serve the highest good. And I quite often say releasing everything that does not serve your highest good, because we're personally looking at what is ours to do. And yet, it is one and the same, is it not? The highest good, God's highest good, is of course our highest good. So it has been written that nothing in nature lives for itself. Rivers do not drink their own water. Trees do not eat their own fruit. The sun does not shine on itself. Flowers spread their fragrance for all to enjoy. So the law in nature, the rule in nature, if you will, is live and let live. Do not hold on. And that takes quite a bit of practice in the art of releasing.
I spent a lot of time this week thinking about the idea of receiving and releasing. It reminded me of a few times that I've gone fishing. I remember one time I went out with a friend to go shrimping. And shrimping, you put lights on the water, and the shrimp come to the lights, and then you use a net and you catch the shrimp. Well, we had a rickety old boat, but he was an electrician, and he rigged up these huge fluorescent light fixtures on the side of the boat and hang them over with chains. And it gathered every jellyfish. And you see little sparkly eyes, whether you go to grab the sparkly eyes, and you come up with a whole net of jellyfish. And so I find that I was actually releasing more than I was catching. So I went out and bought fishing poles. My son and I went out fishing and bought shrimp, ironically, as our bait. And we were just standing on the piers fishing, and every time we would throw out, we'd come back in, and blue crabs would be holding on.
Oh, yes.
And we sometimes we'd get them all the way to the shore before they would let go. And we suddenly realized halfway through the day, you know what, we should have been collecting the crabs.
Yes.
Yeah.
We just kept throwing them back in.
Mm-hmm.
I think the balancing of receiving and releasing. Dennis Merritt Jones says, believing it is more blessed to give than receive is like believing it's more blessed to breathe out than in. Our balancing, we have to balance what we receive and that which we put back out into the world, or put into the world. When we think about all the instances in where there are give and take, receiving and releasing in the world, meteorological activity occurs as a result of high and low pressure systems interacting with each other. Low pressure acts as kind of a vacuum, accepting higher pressure systems. Wind and precipitation are results. And huge things happen as it's just a matter of low pressure systems accepting high pressure systems and the chaos that occurs as a result of that. Basically, it's all hurricanes are. But there are blessings in other blessings in meteorological terms, or in terms of air pressure. Air moving over the curved upper surface of a wing will travel faster and thus produce less pressure than the slower air moving under the wing. And this difference in pressure creates lift, which is a force of flight that is caused by the imbalance of high and low pressures. Both of them are flowing at the same time, but the imbalance actually brings about a benefit to us. Sound waves kind of work similarly. When an object vibrates, it sends a series of compressions and rarefactions through the air. The compressions are compressed air or high pressure, and the rarefactions are low pressure, and they bounce back and forth between each other. These oscillating pressures create the sound wave that moves through the air. Those pressure variations tickle your eardrum, and you hear the resultant sound. Ocean waves are actually nothing more than energy passing through the water, causing it to move in a circular motion. Higher pressure causes the water to rise over the lower pressure areas, and the lower energy passes and lower again as the energy passes through. So it rises up with pressure, and then when the pressure decreases, it falls back down again. Ending up in the same position as before before the wave came through. In reality, the water doesn't move. The water in the waves doesn't travel much at all. The only thing waves do transmit across the sea is energy. Of course, when it hits the shore, it looks like they're moving in towards the shore, but actually what is happening is the high water is rising up to the shore level, and then when it comes back down, it's all washing down in. But the water, just because the water is rising up and going back down, it's not because it's actually moving toward the shore. Fascinating idea. And I've noticed that when I'm standing on a cruise ship, watching the waves and watching how all the seaweed just goes up and down, but it doesn't seem to move away from the ship. I thought that's pretty fascinating. Light is kind of unique. The laws of electromagnetism state that whenever sources of electrical charge, such as electrons, are accelerated, the resultant energy is converted into waves of electromagnetic energy that travel outward from the source at the speed of light. Light energy behaves as both a wave and a particle, able to propagate through mediums like air and water and space. Because photons of light are discrete particles, not waves, they have a certain amount of energy but not a wavelength, because they are not waves. Okay, the point of all this stuff about waves that I would like to make is in reference to give and take, or receiving and releasing. That waves and their properties of giving and releasing, or giving and receiving, in terms of moments of pressure, giving and releasing, coupled with moments of relative vacuum and receiving, are actually balanced. They must be in balance, otherwise the entire structure would collapse. Waves are an intricate part of nature. They can be identified like Fibonacci's codes throughout all of nature and all of life. It's everywhere you look, and everything you do, you're going to find energy and vibration and waves. Light acts both as waves and particles, as pure energy. From a perspective of infinite truth, which is commonly referred to as light, in which form and matter are not primary, in which time and space are irrelevant, we can perceive a more accurate concept of the value of balancing giving and receiving, or receiving and releasing. In the view of life in unity, in which there is only one, give and take are not really possible. There's only one, so there can be no giver and no receiver. In this realm of pure energy, there is no place to release and no other to whom one can give. And so therefore it is a personal experience. It's a unified idea. What we find is that releasing and receiving occur in the same act, immediately and eternally. The two apparently divergent acts are actually inseparable. The two halves of a sound wave must reach the eardrum at the same time, or the sound will be lost. The energy in the ocean waves doesn't change the water until it reaches its destination at the shore. The implication is that we receive from ourselves as we give to ourselves, because we are one with all that is. The process becomes much more intimate under these circumstances. The importance of this balancing is seen, and you may have heard this story about the Dead Sea. The Dead Sea used to be connected to the Mediterranean Sea, but because of the movement of tectonic plates, it is no longer connected to the Mediterranean Sea. The only tributary coming into the Dead Sea is the Jordan River. And there is nowhere where it releases its water. So therefore all the water comes into the Dead Sea, dumps its salt as it evaporates, and because of that, the sea is dead. The implication here is that we must balance our receiving with releasing to balance or to survive. The flow of life must flow through us to nourish us.
So when David shared with me what he was talking about, the light and the idea of the oneness and the balance found in giving and receiving, or releasing and receiving, it reminded me of last week when on our Christmas Eve candle lighting ceremony, I loved what we did, and I'm going to restate it again for those of you that weren't here, and for those of us that were here, I'm hoping that you got the significance, the symbology within the act and the ceremony in which we took place, because it was a little different than it had been. We began by lighting our candle from the one center highest candle, the God candle, symbolically, and then each person lit their candle on the one that was lit. It went around the circle, and then in the center of the table were bowls of sand. And we took our candle and symbolically placed it into the earth, into the sand, as a symbol that we were sharing our light in the world. And what that did was create one, or two in our case, since we had so many people, candle that came together with the light as one light. So I was thinking when he was sharing about that balance, about how that's what release really is. Release really is letting go of anything that is unlike the oneness of this loving God, Spirit. Thich Nhat Hanh states it this way: to truly let go, we must learn to love more completely. I usually tend to say we need to be more God. Not that we can be more God, because all that we are is God, but our actions, our thoughts, our words, the way we demonstrate in the world, I think a lot of that can be more God. And I know for myself, I find that every day there's something more that I could release more of and accept more of. So for me, letting go is about diving in. That sea, that ocean that David talked about, is an ocean of love. And for me, it's about diving into that love. It's about diving into love by setting an intention or a bucket list. And also it's about love by understanding our capacity to love. Our capacity to love is limitless. And the only one that puts up the blocks is us. And I was thinking about that as Wayne was talking today. I was thinking about how he said something like, at the end of I am, we limit ourselves. And then the article went on to talk about a negative idea, which was quite interesting for me in my own mind, because I had thought and chuckled at the idea that at the end of I am, putting something like, I am peace. That's limiting. Is peace? Peace isn't love, not in our human words. So I am all that is. And I had been thinking about that this week, and I thought, ooh, that's a really bold claim, because we're not really all that is, and yet, if we're collapsing waves of possibility, we are. And to the degree that we are able to release and tap into our divine nature, we are. We are accessing all the loving kindness that there is. So how do we do that? We do it in a couple ways. One is looking inward. listening inward, meditation, prayer, the ideas and the spiritual tools that we talk about regularly. But there is also looking and listening outside of ourselves, because we do live as a human being in the world. And so looking at and listening outside ourselves allows us to be more keenly aware of how we could show up in a way that expresses loving kindness so completely, as Thich Nhat Hanh says, love more completely, that we make a huge difference. Maybe we don't even know about it. We don't have to know about it. But it just occurs because there is only one life. And the inner listening helps us to release egotistical ideas that we keep bound up within us as earthly fears. It's about being in a state of love, being in love with life, in love with who you are, becoming transparent and genuine, authentic, that light energy that we can see as we look at candles. I mean, what is it that draws us to light? Almost everyone I know loves to look at lights, loves to look at candles. Unless we have a bad headache, right? But maybe that light is exactly what that headache needs. Some kind of light. For me, that feeling is that feeling of oneness can be experienced in so many ways. And one of those ways is an example of when you reach a mountaintop. That moment when you take in that view from above, it's magnificent. And at that same moment, for me, all waves of self-loving, self-kindness, self-givingness just collapse into that moment, and there's a complete understanding of oneness. At the same time that you're seeing everything that's stretched out in front of you, you're at the same time knowing everything that came before you. And that to me connects to the idea that there is only one life. In that moment, you have truly released anything which is holding you back, dragging you down, and you are knowing your oneness. You are loving completely. Our soul is like a gentle wind. It's like a quiet stream. It needs a perfect flow. So I found this little poem from a person named Stephanie Henry. I have no idea who she is, but she's a nice writer. And she wrote, "If I could tell you anything to save you time and lessons in this life, I would tell you to never let anything that happens to you turn you bitter. Don't let the pain of something that was out of your hands turn you cold, love. Stay soft, as hard as that is at times. Try with all your heart to stay tender. I know there are a lot of things that hurt, that take us to our knees and sometimes threaten our hearts with a stone-cold grudge. Let it go. You can't change it, but you can choose not to allow it to change you. Don't let the pain define you. You are bigger than that. I hope you know. You are never how someone makes you feel. Let it hurt, then let it heal. Don't linger there. Remember who you are and rise. And release, for me, is all about remembering who we are. We are God beings. We are beings of light. We are self-givingness of life to life. Ernest Holmes says, drop all negative thoughts from the mind. Do not dwell on adversity, but think plenty into everything, for there is power in your word. And so now we're going to have an opportunity to release something that is no longer serving the highest good. You were given a pen and a piece of paper. Oops, did you move the plug? So the releasing ceremony can be the same for those of you that like have it, but I've also designed it so that it can be a little different also today. On the paper, you will write whatever it is you would like to release. Remember, God already knows what's in your heart and on your mind. So it doesn't have to be big, long, and elaborate. It can be a symbol, it can be a letter or an abbreviation, whatever you want it to be. And then when the paper is dissolving, it will dissolve in water, it will just melt away. And you can come up one at a time or whenever you feel comfortable, or with someone else if that's comfortable for you. And the tradition we've had for years is the white rocks that you take home with you. Whenever you release, remember David talked about that balance, you need to fill up that hole you dug in the sand. And so if you're releasing negative relationships, maybe you want a heart on yours. If you are accepting more abundance into your life, maybe you want a dollar sign. Yours to decide if you would like to do that. But also, as you release, we have some magnets this year for each one to take one. They do have different sayings, so you can either just pick or read, your choice. And once you put it into the water, it will start dissolving on its own. So while you do that,
Not the rockers.
what?
Not the rocker.
No, not the magnet. Don't put the magnet, just your piece of paper in there. So let's go ahead and start that. Anyone who's ready can come on up. David releases his, I'm going to read a poem written by a Science of Mind minister, Reverend Sapphire Rose. It's entitled She Let Go. I'm going to leave the she's off and make it gender neutral with no. Let go. Without a word or a thought, let go. Let go of fear. Let go of judgments. Let go of the confluence of opinions swarming around in your head. Let go of the committee of indecision within you. Let go of all the right reasons, wholly and completely, without hesitation or worry. Just let go. Don't ask anyone for advice. Don't read a book on how to let go. Don't search the scriptures. Just let go. Let go of all the memories that hold you back. Let go of all the anxiety that keeps you from moving forward. Let go of the planning and all the calculations about how to do it just right. Don't promise to let go. Don't journal about it. Don't write the projected day in your day timer. Don't make any public announcement or put an ad in the paper. Don't check the weather report or read the daily horoscope. Just let go. Don't analyze whether you should let go. Don't call your friends to discuss the matter. Don't do a 5-step spiritual mind treatment. Don't call the prayer line. Don't utter one word. Just let go. No one is around when it happens. There's no applause or congratulations. No one is going to thank you or praise you. No one will even notice a thing. Like a leaf falling from a tree, just let go. There is no effort. There is no struggle. It isn't good and it isn't bad. It is what it is. And it is just that. In the space of letting go, let it all be. Allow a smile to come over your face, a light breeze to blow through you, and the sun and the moon to shine forevermore. And so it is.
So